Most people know Mel Gibson for his legendary film career, but few are aware of his unshakable faith. Despite being a Hollywood star, he often chooses prayer over prestige, silence over scandal. Yet, on that particular day, in the heart of Los Angeles, something beyond explanation happened. Something that would leave even skeptics questioning everything they thought they knew. Could a simple moment of reflection turn into a testimony of something far greater? And when confronted with disbelief, how does faith stand against the weight of mockery? The answers lie not in theories, but in what unfolded before the eyes of those present. When faith is strong, it doesn't need to be defended. It speaks for itself. And when placed under pressure, it does not waver, but instead reveals its true strength. If you enjoy content that helps you grow spiritually, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to our channel, and join our community for more inspiration. Let's get started. Mel Gibson had no intention of drawing attention that day. With his Bible in hand, he sought nothing more than a moment of solitude, a quiet connection with God. The city's noise buzzed around him as he settled onto a worn-out wooden bench in a public park, flipping through the delicate pages of Scripture. For him, this was not an unusual habit. It was a source of peace, a shield from the relentless chaos of the world. A light breeze moved the branches above him, filtering the sunlight in fleeting patterns over his hands. Children played in the distance, joggers passed by, and pedestrians barely took notice of him. To the casual observer, he was simply a man reading in the park, lost in his own thoughts. But what they did not know was that this moment of tranquility would not last. A group of young men approached, their conversation laced with sarcasm and laughter. At first, they merely observed from a distance, nudging each other, whispering, their eyes fixed on the Hollywood icon. Then, emboldened by their numbers, they stepped closer. One of them, smirking, nudged his friend before speaking loud enough for Mel to hear. "Look who we have here, the man who still believes in fairy tales." Another chuckled. "How does it feel to have millions fooled by those stories, Mel?" Their words dripped with mockery, but Mel did not flinch. Without anger, without haste, he closed the Bible gently and looked up. The young men surrounded him, their laughter echoing through the park. They expected a reaction, anger, frustration, perhaps even an argument. But Mel Gibson did not meet their hostility with hostility. Instead, he simply studied them, his expression calm, unwavering. We all face moments when doubt creeps in, when life feels overwhelming, and we search for something greater than ourselves. In times like these, understanding and guidance can be the light that leads us forward. This is exactly what The Secret of Jesus' Apparitions offers. A path to clarity and peace through his revelations. This ebook goes into his prophecies and offers insight into what lies ahead. It's available for free in the pinned comment. Grab it now before the edition's gone. One of them, emboldened by the lack of resistance, scoffed. "Come on, Mel, don't tell me you still believe in that book." He gestured toward the Bible, resting in Mel's hands. Another pulled out his phone, hitting record. "This should be fun," he muttered. A third, taller than the rest, crossed his arms. "Faith is a crutch," he declared. "People like you cling to it because you're too afraid to face reality." Still, Mel did not speak. He did not argue. He simply listened. But the silence unsettled them. Irritated, one of the young men stepped forward and with a swift motion reached for the Bible. His fingers barely grazed the cover when Mel's grip tightened instinctively. "You can mock me," he said, his voice steady, "but you will not take this from my hands." Something in his tone, not forceful, not aggressive, but absolute, made them hesitate. A moment of tension thickened the air between them. Then, suddenly, a gust of wind ripped through the park. Leaves scattered in swirling patterns, branches above them swayed violently, and for a brief moment it felt as if the very air around them had shifted. The laughter stopped. The skeptic who had tried to grab the Bible took a step back, his hand lowering to his side. A flicker of doubt crossed his face. The others exchanged uncertain glances. They had been so sure of themselves just moments ago, so confident in their mockery. But now something unexplainable hovered between them, something unseen yet undeniably present. Mel, still seated, slowly lifted the Bible. His gaze was unshaken. "This book is not just ink on paper," he said. "It is alive." Another gust of wind blew, stronger this time. The trees rustled, the air thick with an unspoken weight. And then something else happened, something none of them could ignore. The moment stretched between them, heavy, unbroken. The young men who had once been so eager to mock now stood in uneasy silence, their expressions flickering between amusement and something bigger, something unspoken. The wind had not ceased. If anything, it had grown stronger, swirling around them as if the very air carried a presence. Then Mel rose to his feet. He was not hurried. His movements were deliberate, unshaken. The Bible rested firmly in his hands as he lifted his gaze to the sky. "You think this book is just an illusion, a crutch for the weak," he said, his voice steady, carrying through the unsettled air. "But I tell you, the grass withers, the flower fades, but the word of our God will stand forever." Isaiah 48. The words rang out with a force none of them expected. The tallest among them, the one who had spoken with such certainty moments before, let out an uneasy breath. The others shifted where they stood, glancing at one another, as if waiting for someone to break the strange pull of the moment. Many go through life searching without even realizing the truth. That's why this e-book was created, to bring clarity and reflection to those who seek it. Copies are running out quickly, so check the link in the pinned comment before it's too late. But before anyone could speak, something else happened. The sunlight, which had been dulled by thick clouds all afternoon, broke through in a single piercing beam. It fell directly onto Mel, casting a glow over his figure. The pages of his Bible shimmered, as if reflecting a light beyond what was visible. One of the young men cursed under his breath, stepping back. Another gripped his phone tighter, still recording but now with trembling hands. "This is ridiculous," one of them muttered. "It's just a coincidence." But no one responded. The weight in the air was too heavy to dismiss. Mel's expression did not change. He did not need to argue. He did not need to prove anything. He simply let the moment speak for itself. Then the first drop of rain fell. Not a storm, not a drizzle, just a single drop, landing on the back of the hand of the skeptic who had tried to take the Bible. He looked down at it, confused, rubbing it with his thumb as if to make sure it was real. More drops followed, slow at first, then faster, falling only over the small circle where they stood. The rest of the park remained untouched. The scattered raindrops quickened, yet no storm loomed above. It was as if the sky itself had chosen to respond. The young men stood frozen, their mocking grins replaced by unease. The skeptic who had tried to seize the Bible wiped his damp hands on his jeans, his confidence now shaken. Mel remained still, his face tilted slightly upward, eyes reflecting the golden hue of the sunlight piercing through the clouds. His grip on the Bible was firm, yet gentle, as though he carried something far greater than paper and ink. "You see the rain and wonder if it is chance," he said, his voice unwavering. "But I tell you, he gives rain on the earth and sends waters on the fields." Job 5:10. The moment he spoke, the warm drizzle stopped as suddenly as it had begun. Not a single drop touched the ground outside the small circle where they stood. The realization settled upon them like an invisible weight. One of the young men glanced at his friend, his voice unsteady. This is insane." "No," Mel corrected, his tone calm but resolute. "This is truth." The trees rustled as another breeze rolled through, yet the air itself felt different, charged with something beyond the natural. And then, from above, a single white feather drifted downward. It swayed gently, carried by the unseen force of the wind, before landing directly on the open pages of Mel's Bible. The young man, still gripping his phone, lowered it slowly. His hands were trembling. "Tell me this is just a coincidence," the tallest among them muttered. But no one did. The skeptic who had first spoken found himself swallowing hard. His mind searched for an explanation, but his heart whispered something else entirely. His whole life he had ridiculed faith, dismissed miracles as foolishness. But standing there, surrounded by something he could neither control nor understand, the certainty he once clung to began to fracture. For those who have ever questioned what lies beyond, this ebook offers valuable insights and deeper understanding. There aren't many copies left, so be sure to download yours while you still can. The white feather remained on the pages, untouched by the wind. The silence stretched, as if the world itself were waiting for what would come next. Not a single gust disturbed it. The skeptic who had once scoffed at faith now stared at it, his breath shallow, his mind racing. He clenched his fists, his knuckles white, as if trying to hold on to something, anything, that could explain what was happening. But there were no explanations. Mel's gaze never wavered. He lifted the Bible slightly, allowing the feather to rest more securely on its pages. Then, in a voice both gentle and unshakable, he said, "Are not 2 sparrows sold for a penny? Yet not one of them will fall to the ground outside your Father's care." Matthew 10:29. One of the young men shifted uncomfortably. This was not what they had come for. They had expected a scene, an argument, a man trying to defend himself. Instead, they were the ones being confronted, not by words, but by something they could not explain. The skeptic took a slow step back, his heartbeat hammering in his ears. His whole life he had prided himself on logic, on reason. Faith to him had always been a weakness, an escape for those unwilling to face reality. But this was something else. A sudden warmth filled the air. Not heat, not discomfort, something deeper, something soothing, like the embrace of an unseen presence. One of the other young men exhaled sharply. "I don't like this," he muttered, rubbing his arms as if trying to shake off the feeling. But Mel wasn't looking at him. His eyes were fixed on the skeptic, the one who had tried to take the Bible. There was no judgment in his expression, only understanding. "You are searching for something, even if you do not know it yet," he said. The skeptic's throat tightened. He wanted to laugh, to dismiss it, to call it a coincidence. But the words wouldn't come. Because deep down, in the place he rarely let himself go, he knew Mel was right. Then, for the first time since it all began, he spoke, not with mockery, not with confidence, but with hesitation, with uncertainty. What if I wanted to believe?" Mel's eyes softened. He could see it. the battle raging inside the skeptic. It was not a fight against logic or reason, but against something much deeper. A lifetime of disbelief, of walls built to keep faith out, was beginning to crack. The young man's hands trembled slightly as he looked down, avoiding Mel's gaze. His mind screamed for an escape, but something within him held him in place. What if I wanted to believe? His own voice sounded foreign to him, as if someone else had spoken the words. He had spent years certain of his beliefs, yet now, standing in this moment, everything felt different. Sometimes all it takes is the right perspective to change everything. That's exactly what this ebook provides. Grab your copy before they're gone. The link is in the pinned comment. Mel did not answer immediately. He let the question hang in the air, heavy with meaning. Then, without breaking eye contact, he said, "Blessed are those who have not seen and yet have believed." John 20:29. The words landed like a whisper and a thunderclap all at once. The skeptic swallowed hard. Everything in him wanted to reject it, to dismiss the moment as nothing more than an illusion. But he could not deny what he had felt, that warmth, that unexplainable weight in the air. One of his friends shifted beside him, uneasy. "Hey man, let's just go." This is weird. But he didn't move. Instead, he did something none of them expected. He reached out, slowly, hesitantly, toward the Bible, the same book he had mocked, the same book he had tried to take by force. Mel did not pull it away. He simply held it there, steady, as if waiting. The young man's fingers brushed against the worn leather cover, and the moment his skin made contact, something inside him shattered. A sharp inhale escaped his lips. He felt it, something real, something alive. Tears burned at the edges of his eyes before he could stop them. He had spent years ridiculing faith, but in this moment he was no longer in control. If this message makes you think and you feel it connects with you, don't forget to like it, subscribe to the channel, and leave a comment. Also, if you really want to support our work and help us keep creating valuable content, consider giving us a super thanks. Join this amazing community and don't miss any news. He clenched his jaw as if fighting against it, but the war had already been lost. His knees buckled. He dropped to the ground, his hands gripping his head, his breath coming in uneven gasps. He wasn't just feeling something. He was being undone. One of his friends took a step forward, concern flickering in his eyes. "Are you okay?" But the young man didn't answer. He couldn't. Because for the first time in his life, he was not searching for proof, not demanding evidence. He was experiencing faith. Mel knelt beside him, placing a hand gently on his shoulder. "You don't have to understand it all at once," he said. "You just have to take the first step." A single tear slipped down the skeptic's cheek, and then, from above, a soft light broke through the clouds once more.